Underestimating your thoughts rarely brings any good things to your life. See, life in general is represented by thousands upon thousands of layers of ignorance through which all beings, all living beings, will have to go in order to achieve a certain level of awareness and then achieve the ultimate, which is re-becoming one with creation. Ignoring your own thoughts is like ignoring a part of yourself. It's like a car ignoring its own engine, because ultimately that is what the humans call as the mind is. It is an engine of creation, as I define it, because it is always going to create based on what you put into it. A lot of people will tell you constantly, shut down your mind, do this, do that. Those people are just bozos who don't know whatever about life, whatever the human body is and how it functions. They just imagine things because they can't understand shit. So they either imagine those things or they simply invent them. It's not much of a difference. But the problem is, thoughts function in a very simple way. The more you believe in those, the more you accept those, the more they will become part of who you are. See, a thought is nothing else but you can take it as a life form. It's like a little child that you create. And like anything that you create, it will, let's say, exist within your own field. A thought, just like life itself, is cyclical. It is a physical representation which will, live in cycles because physicality means cycles. That is why all the thoughts in your mind, you can try to repress them as much as you want. They will come back. The faster they come back, the more fucked up you are because a cycle, the longer it is, the more distant you are from it, right? If you're obsessed with a thought, you can't pull it out of your mind. If something comes to you in your mind, maybe it was something you thought of 10 years ago, right? They say the longest cycles of life are happening once in 12 years and something. So I'm not knowledgeable much of this, but yogic sciences say about that. And there are other sources that say every 12 hours, every 12 years, all your cycles will repeat sooner or later. It is us that we live, and as we live, after a certain period of time, it can be years, you will slowly have a tendency or thoughts will pop up that you want to get back to some old habits, right? You've been out of certain bad habits for a long time. They will pop up slowly and surely. Maybe they will not in a certain cycle, or maybe you're not conscious of those, but they will always repeat. The more unconscious someone becomes, the more these cycles will slip in because they're technically like children, which you are abandoning, and they will want to draw your attention back. It is better to treat them as monkeys or anything that you dislike because that is what technically are. I'm only using the term child as an easier way to try to make people understand things. So these thoughts will repeat again and again in your mind. Everything that you think of will become automatically a cycle because it is like you are creating life. Imagine that within the confinements, within the boundaries of your mind, you are. Yes. Imagine that you are like a god in the confinements of your mind. Imagine that you have full power in there. But it's like essence of creation will come from outside because you will also assimilate other people's thoughts. And guess what? Science nowadays is telling us that epigenetics is something true and one has to understand the significance of this and people have to stop underestimating the idea of thoughts. See, a thought is a form of energy that you can attach yourself. You will attach to it in a certain way, at least slightly, because the moment you accept it, the moment you believe it, it means you are feeding it energy, like breastfeeding a child. The problem is, the more you are feeding energy to it, any kind of thought, whether it is a supportive thought or a negative thought, it will become bigger and bigger. The biggest problem humans have is that these thoughts, which are nothing else but simple life forms, let's put them so, they will become slowly and surely part of your behavior if you simply attach yourself to them too much. And they will feel as if they are part of your system. Once something feels like part of your system, whether it is mental, whether it is purely physical, because, well, mental and thoughts, well, thoughts are also physical, but very subtle. But even the objects around, if you become obsessed with those, they feel like they are part of your system. So you're going to feel very bad when it comes to giving them up. It's like impossible to give those up. Why? Because of the same principle. You have attached to them way too much. What this attachment means? Well, it is nothing but a belief that your life without that will be horrible. Why these beliefs happen? Because we are creatures of comfort. So, comfort is something undefined to your mind. It is something that, let's say, like in programming, it doesn't have any value, it doesn't have any meaning, it doesn't have anything. But you can create such a meaning in your mind. Now, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that the meaning can be anything, right? And that meaning may also not come from yourself. And epigenetics says that you also bear within you the thoughts and the tendencies of your previous generations, not only your parents, their parents as well, their grandparents, and so on and so forth. It is said through science that the last 7 generations have the greatest impact upon you, but those generations have also been influenced by the previous generations. So, more or less, you also have multiple more generations. Yogic sciences are saying that there are um, aspects that they do, things that they do, rituals they go through, and they try to treat the last 12 generations because the mind functions in 11 levels, or let's say 11 dimensions, as science also supports. And everything that lies beyond that 11th dimension starts to simply dissipate, no longer being physical, right? It doesn't dissipate. Wait, let me put it straight. It actually is beyond physicality, right? So 11 is a very powerful aspect in spirituality because of the 11 physical dimensions. But if we go even further, a thought is, just accepting something. And that thought, unfortunately, may become a belief. A belief means accepting something without a necessity for proof. That is the biggest problem because a lot of people live their lives accepting certain things, but they never question those. They never question why they feel so bad, why they're not worthy, to whom they're not worthy. Why would you be worthy or unworthy? Because if a primitive tells you that you're someone who's retarded, primitive minded, idiots, you can see that they're completely out of reality. And if they're telling you that you're not worthy, like, really now? You're considering yourself unworthy to someone who's supporting a sick society? Aligning yourself to a sick society is definitely no measure of health. Aligning yourself to the principles of idiots, to the principles of deviance of a society, obviously means you're taking part in that. If you're a partaker in a sick society, that doesn't make you much of a healthy individual in the first place. If you take into account narcissistic people's abuse, if you take into account such aspects, well, unfortunately, they can happen while you're young. When you're young, yes, you are truly defenseless. But in the end, things be said short. Thoughts, you have to understand, they have an extremely powerful grasp over you. The more you try to repress them, the stronger you make them. Because in the mind, in the dimension of the mind, nothing can be silenced, nothing can be stopped. When you try to shut something down in the mind, what does it translate to? You're sending it more energy, right? You cannot shut down the mind unless you pass away, unless you perish. That is when the mind stops. Until then, your emotions and your thoughts cannot be stopped. If you try to repress them, if you try to stop them, to the mind it only translates as give as much energy as possible to those. And that is why they become so much stronger. That is why they multiply. And which translates to the cycle becoming shorter and shorter. So when those thoughts repeat so damn fast, obviously you'll feel that you are simply overwhelmed by those thoughts and that you can't concentrate on nothing else. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated, take care, enjoy life. And this being said, Ferenc Board signing out.